Welcome to Geometry Virtual Tutor. This video will be on triangle properties, covering define and identify a triangle by its angles and sides. So when we're looking at angles, we have 4 different ways that we can identify the triangle. We have acute, obtuse, right, and equiangular. Acute means that all 3 angles are less than 90 degrees. If the triangle is obtuse, one angle in the triangle is greater than 90 degrees. If it is a right triangle, that means one angle is equal to 90 degrees. And you can identify the triangle as equiangular if all angles are equal. So all angles will equal 60 degrees. To identify a triangle by its sides, we have scalene, isosceles, and equilateral. A scalene triangle has no equal sides. An isosceles triangle has 2 equal sides. And an equilateral triangle has all sides equal. So here we have 2 examples of triangles. So we're going to classify each triangle by its angles and sides. So in looking at triangle number 1, you'll notice that it has 2 sides that are equal, 2.3, 2.3. The third side is not equal to 2.3, its side is 4.1. So classifying this triangle by its sides would be isosceles. So now we classify it by its angles as well. So we look at the angles, and we'll see that one of our angles is greater than 90 degrees. So our triangle is an obtuse triangle. Looking at number 2, when we look at all 3 sides of the triangle, we see that all 3 sides are 6.8. So classifying this triangle by its sides, we would say that it is equilateral. And then when we see, or when we look at the angles of the triangle, we see that they're all less than 90 degrees, but they're all 60 degrees. They're all equal. So we can classify this triangle by its angles as equiangular. In our next example, they ask us to solve for x and then classify by angles and sides. So in looking at this triangle, we don't have any measurements. All the angles have x involved. Well, we know that all the angles of a triangle are supposed to equal 180 degrees. So for this triangle, we are going to take all 3 angles and add them up. So we have 8x plus 5, plus 5x minus 1, plus 4x plus 6, and set that equal to 180. So now we combine like terms. 8x plus 5x plus 4x is 17x. And then we have plus 5 minus 1 is 4, plus 6 is 10. Still equal to 180. Subtract 10, you get 17x equals 170. Divide by 17, x equals 10. So that's just the first part of the question. So now we have to classify by angles and sides. So now we have to take x equals 10 and substitute it for each x for all of our angles. So 8 times 10 plus 5. You get 80 plus 5, which is 85. Then you do 5 times 10 minus 1. 50 minus 1 is 49 degrees. And then you do 4x. So 4 times 10 plus 6, 40 plus 6, and you get 46 degrees. So you'll look at all of your angles and see that they are all less than 90 degrees. So when you classify this triangle by its angles, it is an acute triangle. And since none of our angles are the same, none of our sides are going to be equal either. So when none of our sides are equal, we have a scalene triangle. So now you have 3 examples, so you're going to want to pause the video now. Try these 3 questions. When you finish these 3 questions, press play to get your answers. So for triangle number 1, you'll notice by the markings all the sides are equal and all the angles are equal. So when all of your sides are equal, it's equilateral. And when all of your angles are equal, it is equiangular. Number 2, we only have 2 sides marked congruent. So classifying by sides, when you have 2 sides that are the same, it is isosceles. Then we have one angle here that's marked as 90 degrees. When you have an angle marked as 90 degrees, when you classify it by angles, you can call it a right triangle. Question number 3 is like the question that we did on the previous page. So we're only given the angles. Well, this one, they didn't give us the measurement of it, so this is where we have to take all 3 angles and add them up and set them equal to 180. So you combine like terms, so you got 40 and 70 is 110. 110 plus 81 is 191. X was by himself, so he just drops down. Still set it equal to 180. Subtract 191. So you get x equals negative 11. So now we have to take x equals negative 11 and substitute. So we work this out. Negative 11 plus 81 is 70. So this angle right here is 70 degrees. We have 2 angles. We have 3 angles that are all less than 90 degrees. So classifying this triangle by its angles would be acute. Now, we have 2 angles that are equal. We have 2 angles that are 70 degrees. So that means we are going to have 2 sides that are equal. So when we have 2 sides that are equal, we can classify it by isosceles.